Today I'm going to be sharing the video of finishing this embroidery project. It has been a long time since I last worked on this project. I think the last time I worked on it was like at the very end of January, and I will be completely honest, this project definitely was something that ended up being a little bit too big for me because and I said in those videos back in January that um I had made something for my mom for Christmas. It was like a little stocking stuffer, and I really liked it. So I was like, well, maybe I'll try some other embroidery projects. And I got this one because it was book themed, and I was like, that'll be perfect for me because I love books. And I was really excited. But then once I did like the bookcase, once I did the flowers, the whole thought of like sitting down and doing the actual books now was something that was very intimidating for me. And it didn't help that a few weeks ago I ended up getting a really bad cold, and I went to sit down and do this project because I figured why not. And I was like, I just can't even, my brain is saying no. So I decided that I just wanted to go ahead and sit down and just finally finish this, which I'm very happy that I did. I finished this a few days ago, and I'm really happy with the end result of it. But I will say this was one of those projects where I bit off more than I could chew. And if you're a person that is like looking to start like a new crafting hobby, start small and work your way up. And I will be doing other embroidery projects, just smaller ones for a bit. But yeah, embroidery can be really, really relaxing. But like I said, I think I bit off more than I could chew with this, and I am admitting that. But yeah, and also I have a feeling that there's probably going to be someone who obviously has been embroidering for a lot longer than just like two projects, and is probably going to say, you didn't do that right. You know, it doesn't look 100% the way it should look. And I know that I am a beginner to this. And I did have to have my mom and my grandmother fix a couple of the mistakes that I made. But this is the second embroidery project that I've ever done. So I was quite proud of how it turned out for only doing two embroidery projects. And I decided that I just wanted to go ahead and do the colors of the books the way I wanted, not by what the pattern said, because, or by what the colors of the picture was, because I just wanted a little bit more color to this, and I really like how it turned out. Now, I will be honest that some of this did kind of look like a holiday theme because of like the red and the green that I used. That was not my intention. It was just something that coincidentally happened. But yeah, I also just decided that I wanted to go ahead and kind of just do this my own way, because I feel like sometimes you just kind of got to like experiment with those things. Like, my mom's like, my mom and I were talking about this with us, and she's like, if you don't like the color of thread they want you to use for that small spot, use a different color. She's like, make it your own. She goes, yeah, use the basic pattern so you know like a general idea of what you're doing. But she's like, and my grandmother said this to me also, just add the colors that you want. And she's like, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing that. So that's what I did here. Now, because there were quite a few books, I only did a couple of them on camera, because this project in total, or the whole book part of the project in total, took me, I want to say, roughly around 2, maybe 3 hours. And I was not going to do a 2-3 hour long video. So I just did part of this on camera, and then I did the rest of it off camera, because like I said, I didn't want to do a 2-hour video. Not that there's anything wrong with 2-hour videos. I just personally, because I do so many voiceovers for my nail art YouTube channel, I try to be very cautious with the length of videos I do on that channel, but also on this one, because my throat, when you do a lot of voiceovers for YouTube or even like social media, it can cause your throat to become scratchy. So, or just like overdo your vocal cords. So I try to be very cautious with how long a video is for that reason, because I don't want to overdo my vocal cords and lose my voice, because that would not be very good if I did that with running 2 YouTube channels. But yeah. Now, one thing I will say though is I made a mistake like in the last 2 parts to this, where I used thread, and when I did the thread, I didn't realize that I was supposed to only use like 3 little strands of the thread. My mother actually had to point that out for me, and she's like, you are aware that you're supposed to use like 3 of these little threads, right? And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, you're supposed to use 3 of these little threads, which I kind of did do with this part of the project. But then I was like, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're just going to go ahead and go and do like the full piece of thread like I have here, because I liked the look of it. I thought it made the books look like they were thicker, in my personal opinion. But yeah, that was one of those things that I did not know about embroidery. Like I said, I am a beginner to embroidery, and when you're a beginner to something, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to know 100%. I am very fortunate though that I have a mom and a grandmother who do these type of projects. Like, my family does a whole lot of like the older type crafts, which apparently are now coming back, which I think is really nice. But so I have like, I've kind of like grown up with that. So I've noticed that I tend to stick to projects or different types of crafting that we all have like done since I was younger. Because I'm like, well, if I do it this way, then like if I need help with something, like they can help me figure it out. Nail art, no one had done nail art before but me. But when it comes to things like embroidery, I've also tried knitting in the past, which I've never done YouTube videos on, obviously, but I have done knitting in the past. These are just some of the crafts that my mom and my grandmother do occasionally, and I'm like, can you please help me with this if I need it? Like I said, my grandmother did actually have to take out a couple of the mistakes I made, because mistakes happen, like I said. But overall, I was really happy with the way this turned out. But like I said, again, if you're a person who is wanting to try out a different type of craft as a hobby, I would recommend starting off small, especially if you want to get into something like knitting or embroidery. Start off very, very small. I know that may seem kind of discouraging, but trust me when I tell you, if you are a beginner, start small and slowly work your way up, because sometimes it can end up feeling very intimidating. And yeah, so I'm very happy with the way this project turned out. I'm happy I did it. I think it was such a cute little project, but like I said, start small, work your way up. I do have some other embroidery projects that I'm going to be doing here soon at some point that are much smaller than this, which I'm happy about. But yeah, that was the statement of I bit off more than I could chew with this. But that's okay. I did also end up changing up how I did the stitching in this. Like I said, I'm sure there's probably someone who could watch this and who's like a pro at embroidery or has been doing this for a long time, and is probably kind of ticking and sighing at me, being like, why are you doing it that way? That's not correct. That's not correct. Like, this is frustrating to watch, and I understand it. But like I said, I just kind of did this my own way. I followed the basic pattern, but I decided to do this my own way. And sometimes you just got to figure out how to do something that's easiest for you. And that was just my viewpoint with this. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up doing this book here. Now, I'm sure there's probably going to be someone that was like, you could have done the entire, all the books at once. It would have been so cool to watch. And I agree. But like I said, I try to limit how long I do my voiceovers or how long I do a video for, because I just don't want to overdo my vocal cords and not be able to explain in future voiceovers how to do what I'm doing on nail art or on this channel here. So that would be why I limit, like I said earlier, that is why I limit how long my videos are. So we're going to go ahead and do some now detailing to just the books here, which I will say this. One thing that I did with this that made a huge difference for me was I did all of the books. I just did the color block as is, and then I went back in once I was done with the entire row of books, and I added the detail that I kept adding here. Oh my gosh, that made this project go by a whole lot quicker, and I would definitely recommend this. Plus, as you can see, there are multiple books on that shelf there that are the same colors. I should have done that. I should have thought about doing that sooner, and I was so happy I did, because that itself helped me use up quite a bit of yarn that I needed to, or thread that I needed to get used up. But also, I think it just looked really, really cool and more cohesive, which I really like also. So we're going to go ahead and finish doing the detail work here, and then you're going to see the end result very, very soon. Like I said, I did do most of this off camera because it was just going to take me a lot longer. And like I said, I think this about took me maybe 3 hours in total of just the book. So I did do the other 2 rows off camera. But like I said, I was really happy with the way that this turned out. And you're going to see here in a little bit what the end result was, which I loved. But you can see that there is some red in here and some green, which definitely kind of gives like a holiday feel. That was not done intentionally. I just like those colors of the yarn, so I chose to go ahead and do that like that. So yeah, we're wrapping this project up, and I hope that this video was enjoyable. And yeah, here is what the end result looked like. And that is it for the final part of finishing my embroidery project, and that is it.